everybody and welcome to the channel. I am Richard. Today I'm going to bring you somewhere really horrible. I'm going to take you to a town where you need to fight for survival and try to stop the evil monsters from coming into our world and take over. You will need to try to protect villagers, gather items, and go into dark places and beat and defeat these monsters. I'm going to show you Horrified from Ravensburgers. This is a 1 to 5 player game, around 60 minutes of gameplay, and from 10 years and above. And it is about you running around in town, gathering items, and try to stop these monsters from breaking through and taking over our world. Now, this game is a lot of fun, and I truly enjoy it. I'm going to show you the setup of this game. I'm going to go through the rules of this game, so once you have watched this video, you can take on these monsters yourself. So let's just have a look at it. This is the setup of the game. In the middle of the gaming area you have the big board. Depending on which monster you are facing, the setup will look a bit different. We have chosen to meet the creature and Dracula, which are recommended in your first game. There are 4 other monsters in this game for you to meet, and on the back of these monster sheets you can see the setup for each specific monster. When you play the creature, you need to place the creature in the lagoon, put the camp tile overlay on the camp, and put the cool little boat on the starting cross in his down part of his player board. And when it comes to Dracula, you should place the Dracula miniature on the crypt. You should take the 4 coffins, looking like this, and place them with the red side face up. 1 in the crypt, 1 in the cave, 1 in the dungeon, and 1 in the graveyard. You also need to place the frenzy marker on the monster with the lowest frenzy number. Dracula has number 1 and the creature have 4, meaning that Dracula gets the frenzy marker. Each player picks a character at random. These are the ones that you will be portraying as and using during the game. Each character has a special action and a number of actions that they can use up here, and a starting location at the bottom of their player card. This one here starts at the precinct. The other one starts at the shop. In the precinct we have placed the orange player, and in the shop we have placed the pink one. Next to the boards we place some perk cards. These are cards that the players get from taking the villagers from their spawning point to the location that they would like to go, that you can see stated at the top of their token. Each player should also receive 1 perk card at random. Next to the perk cards we have the monster cards. These cards will determine how many items you should put out on the board, but also what and what not the monsters will do. We also have 3 dice, and each player gets a little card that they can see what's going on in the different phases. Then we also need to place out the terror marker. This one will move up as the game goes on. Every time a monster kills a player or a villager, this one will move 1 step. If it ever moves the last step, number 7, the game is over and the players lose. We also need to draw 12 items from this little black bag. And then we place them out on the locations that says on the item itself. Here you can see that this is a mirrored box and it should be placed on the mansion. The mansion being here. Once we have placed out all the 12 items, we are ready to start playing the game. So this game is about you and a fellow player going around this town trying to stop these monsters for taking over. Because that's what they want to do. They want to get into town and defeat all the players, but also the villagers. To be able to stop these monsters, the players need to work together to collect items and use these items to complete different objectives. The objectives themselves is stated on the monster sheets. Each monster have their own objective, so you really need to take a look at the monsters before you start playing the game to see what your actual goal is. This game is played out during two different phases. You have the player phase first, where one player takes all of their actions, and then it's the monster phase, and the monster makes all of their actions. Then the turn goes on to the next player on the left, they do all of their actions, the monster make their actions, and so on. But before I show you the player actions, let's take a look at Dracula and the creature to see what we actually need to do. So this is the monster sheets. Up here you have some information about the monster itself and what their different abilities are. Down here you have your objectives, what you need to complete to be able to defeat the monster itself. On the top you can see your first objective. This is what you first need to complete to be able to actually defeat the monsters later on. If we start by looking at the creature, you can see here that at the campsite on the map, you need to place yellow, red, or blue items on the campsite to be able to move this boat forward on the map. It will cost you one action to place one item to be able to move the boat. So make sure that you don't do red, yellow, blue and so on, but chooses the color that is furthest away, so you move the boat the longest route as possible. For example, you can start by placing one blue item and move the boat to the blue spot. On your next action, you could place a yellow item and move this boat as far as possible. Once you have reached the layer, you have completed the first part of the creature's objective. Now you can choose to meet up with the creature and use one yellow, one red, and one blue item to defeat him. But you need to be in the creature's space. If we take a look at Dracula here, you can see that he also has some special abilities. And down here he also have a first objective that you need to complete to be able to do the second. Here you can see that you need to smash the coffins. So in every space where Dracula has one of his coffins, you need to go there with your character and place red items with a total value of 6 to smash one coffin. Once you have destroyed all 4 coffins, you move down to step number 2, where you need to meet up with Dracula on his space and use yellow items with a value of 6 or higher. Once you have done this, you have defeated Dracula and the creature and you have won the game. That's the way you defeat the creature or Dracula. But remember that each of these monsters have their own objectives that you need to do to defeat them. Some of them are a little bit harder, some of them are a little bit more easier. And when you choose the monsters, you can actually choose to build your own difficult levels. You could do one monster or you could do all 6 monsters, all depending on how long game you want or how hard game you want. Now that we know what we're actually going to do in our objectives to defeat these monsters, we can move into the player phase. Because that was phase number 1, remember? Each character out on the board have a certain amount of actions. And you can find how many actions your character have by looking at the top of your little player board. Now, you can take your actions in any order you would like to, so you do not have to play the full movement and then do another actions. You can split them out and divide them in any way you would like to. The first action you can choose to do is to move. Your character can move on all of the streets on the map, but they cannot move into the water locations. To move your character one step, you simply move them to the next spot, meaning that this would be 1 movement, 2 movements, and 3 movements. And yes, you can move into and stop at the same location as a monster. Another character can also choose to move into the same location as you and a monster are located. The same way a player can also choose to move away from a monster without any penalties. When you move your character around the board, you can also choose to bring a villager with you on your journey. You do this by simply taking your character and the villager and move them together. Besides bringing a character along with you on the journey, you can also do an action called the guide, meaning that you can take the villager that is on the same location as you and push them one step to an adjacent location. But you can also do it the other way, meaning that if your character is located at a location that is adjacent to a villager's location, you can choose to pull them in to your location. This would be one action to push them away and one action to pull them in. But taking them with you on your journey does not count as an extra action. That is simply one movement action. To defeat the monsters, you will need a lot of items. To get these items, you simply move into the location where there is an item that you need, and you can choose to spend one action to pick that item up. If you're at the same location as a fellow player, you can choose to share, meaning that you can trade any number of items with the players in this space. You can choose to spend one action to use your special action stated at the bottom of your character's card. These actions are quite important for you in your gameplay and in your quest to defeat the monsters, so do not forget to use them every now and then. Most characters have special actions except for the mayor, but that's because she already has 5 actions available, making her powerful enough as it is. And of course, you can choose to spend actions to try to defeat the monsters. To, for example, spend items to break a coffin or to land at the same place as a monster to defeat them will cost you 1 action. Meaning that if you move your character to the place where there's actually a coffin for you to break, spending these red items as a value of total of 6 and breaking the coffin will cost you 1 action. To move the boat a certain steps for the creature will cost you 1 action per item you use. And remember that you need to be on the specific location stated on the objective cards of that monster to actually do the objective itself. So you would need to stand at the same place at the coffins to break them, and you would need to stand at the camp to use the items to move the boat forward. You can't do that anywhere on the map. So this is where the players really need to work together, because one player does not have to do everything. One player could go in and smash one coffin and another player could smash another coffin. One player can go up to the camp and advance the boat a few steps, and then the next player can run up there and advance it some more. The next character can go over and smash the Dracula once all the coffins have been broken, and so on. This is really a team effort. And the same way, if you play this game solo, you need to use the different characters as versatile as possible. So you don't have just one character picking up items and another one just running around moving villagers. You need to have a group effort with the different characters to actually meet your objectives. That was the player phase. The player takes their actions, as many as they like to, and in any order that they would like to, meaning that they could choose to move their character around, stop to pick up an item, move one more step, to take a villager with them on their journey, or guide them away or pull them into themselves. Now, why would you want to move these little villagers around on the board? Well, that's because if a monster ends up on the same location as a villager on the monster's turn, and they actually get to hit them, they can't defend themselves. So they will exit the game. Every time a villager exits the game or becomes defeated, we move the terror marker up 1 step on the terror track. And when we come up to the last spot here, it's game over. The same thing happens if a monster managed to defeat a character. And once a character is defeated, we move the terror marker up 1 step. But the character actually comes back. It will reappear again in the next round on the hospital space on the board. But the characters actually have a way of defending themselves, because they can throw away items to block out the punches. So if a monster roll a hit, they can throw away 1 item to block that punch. But if they roll 2 hits, they would need to throw away 2 items to block the 2 punches. But this might be a good idea, because this has a tendency to move pretty fast. As you start pulling
the monster cards in the monster phase, the villagers will start popping out on these cards, spawning on different places on the board. Which brings us into the monster phase. During the monster phase, the player who have just ended their turn draws the top card from the monster deck. Now we need to resolve whatever is stated on this card. We start in the top. At the top of the card, you can see that we have a number. This number indicates how many items we should draw from the item bag and place out on the board. So the player takes 3 items at random from the bag, and then we need to place them out on the board itself. At the bottom of the items, you can see where these items should be placed on the board. On this one, it says mansion, meaning that we place it at the mansion location. This one says laboratory, meaning that we place it in the laboratory. And the last one says museum, so we place it at the museum. When we have placed out the items, we move to the next square on the monster card. This one tells us that we should place Renfield out on the docks. So we need to find his little standee and place him at the docks. Now each villager have a location that they would like to go to, stated at the top of their standee. Renfield here would like to go all the way down here to the hospital. The player that managed to guide him or move him all the way down to the hospital gets a perk card, looking like this. This perk card will give the player different benefits during their gameplay. And these ones are also quite significant for you to actually make it through the game. And you can use these cards anytime during your turn as you want to, or through any hero phase, and some of these cards you can even use them during the monster phase as well. You get one of these cards at the beginning of the game, but this is a brilliant way for you to get more of these. Once you have used them though, they are used and expanded. You can't use them over and over again. It's a one time, but they're quite significant. So this monster card told us to place out Renfield at the docks. But other cards will tell us to move all of the villagers on the board. This one tells us to move the villagers one step closer to their safe location, but also move the frenzy marker, meaning that we should move it from Dracula to the creature. Other cards will tell us to do something with the monster out on the board. This one here, for example, tells us to place the creature in the river. Down here, we can also see a field telling us what the monsters will or will not do. If you have a fire symbol here, this will mean that the frenzy monster, the creature now, will move one step to the closest character or villager on the board, and if they reach them and end up at the same location as that villager or character, they will attack them with 3 dice. And on these cards, you should also keep a lookout for the monster symbols as well. This is the symbol for Dracula. Here we have the Wolfman. Over here we have the Invisible Man. If your monster that is on the board is not visible on this field, they will not activate. But if their symbol is there, they will do the move, and if they can, they will attack. Depending on what result you get on the attack dice when you roll for the monster, different things are going to happen. If you get this result here, for example, this is a hit, meaning that the monster will hit the character or the villager. The character, like I told you, has the ability to actually throw away an item to block off the punch, but the villagers do not have that. If a character and a villager is at the same location as a monster when they hit, the character can choose to take the punch instead of the villager. But if the monster rolls this one here, the exclamation mark, different things are going to happen. When this symbol is rolled, you need to look at the monster sheet to see what ability that will trigger for them. These abilities are usually something that will help them in their quests. That's how you resolve the monster card. You start from the top, picking the items that are stated. Sometimes you get 0 items and sometimes you get more. You place out the items on the different locations stated on the item itself. Then you move down to resolve the square in the middle of the card. If your monster is not on that square, well, nothing happens. Otherwise, you need to resolve the effect immediately, moving the villagers around or moving the monsters or activating whatever ability they have. Then we move down to the bottom of the card, and if your monster's symbol or the frenzy symbol is in that field, well, you activate that monster. Sometimes the same monster can activate several times. If you have the frenzy symbol and the monster symbols down in the bottom field, they will activate twice, meaning that they will do the movement twice or maybe they will hit you twice. And that's the way the game goes on. The players make their turns, do their actions, the monsters do their actions according to the card. You need to try to protect the villagers, otherwise the terror will rise and you might lose. You need to protect yourself, but you will also need to pick up the different items and move around on the board to complete these objectives. If you manage to complete the objectives before the terror reaches this last spot, you have won the game. If you do not manage to do it, well, you can always reset and try again. Did I enjoy this game? Yes, I did. I think that this game is a perfect game for game night. When you just bring some friends over or your families and you just want to have a fast game that is easy to learn and really funny to play. But still not too easy, because you need to be quite strategic when you fight these monsters. What characters should do what, where to place what items, who should do what objectives, because you need to make sure that you are keeping up with the objectives on the monster sheets, but also protecting the villagers at the same time as you try to get these perk cards, because they make a big difference in your gameplay. Also, you need to make sure that you keep track of the monsters, that they won't go too crazy and get their hands on you or the villagers. And with the different monsters in this game, you can really make every game quite different. I mean, if you want a really hard game, well, go on then and bring out more monsters on the table. But if you want an easier game with your kids or something, well, then just take on one or two of them. It's really up to you. And it says 10 years on the box, but my son was 8 years old and he had no problems whatsoever getting through this game. I only had to help him a little bit with the English because we're from Sweden, so he can't read English. But other than that, it was no problems for him to get into this game and start making progress on beating the monsters. So this game is really fun. I've also played it with another group of mine, 2 friends, and we usually play heavier games. But this one worked quite well there, because you have the easy mechanics, you have the easy gameplay, but again, you need to be quite strategic as the game itself wants to beat you and it's not making it too easy for you. So this is a great game.
There you have it, people. That was Horrified for you. A 1 to 5 player game from Ravensburger. And this game is a lot of joy to play. It's an easy setup, it's an easy teardown. The game is easy to learn, it's quite strategic, and it's not that easy to beat. I really like this game, and it fits in pretty much any environment with your kids or with your family or friends. So this game is really cool, and if you like this kind of games where you need to figure out small puzzles and overcome obstacles, this game is for you. There will be links down in the description, so be sure to check that out if you want to know more about this game. So that was the video, people. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up, throw in a comment there what you thought about the video. If you like this channel, why not subscribe to it? Give me some support, people. It gives me a smile on my lips every time I get a new subscriber. And until next time, people, please keep on spreading that board gaming love I know you all have. Peace.